Welcome back to maximise. So today is sort of the wrap-up day, I guess, for the Getting Help month that we've been talking about. So in the first episode, we talked about getting help from professionals. Then we talked about getting help from family and friends. And then last time we talked about getting help from yourself. So how can you put yourself in the best position? And this week I wanted to talk about putting it all together, which is putting together your team. So I think sometimes people don't really think about it in those terms, but if you are going through separation and divorce, what you need to have is a team around you. And that will include people who are family and friends, but also you'll no doubt be working with professionals as well. So identifying where are the gaps, figuring out how to fill them is all part of building that team to make sure that you have the information and resources that put you in the best position to move forward. So in terms of doing that, I would say the first step is really identifying who's in your existing team. So putting it into 3 columns. Who do I have on the team? Who do I need to have? And who do I think I really don't need to have? And that could be any one of a number of type of person. It could be legal assistance, it could be financial, whether that's helping you navigate in terms of finding information, like a forensic accountant, or whether it's helping to plan what the future looks like, so a financial advisor, or helping even just to understand what the finances look like. I've seen a lot of financial advisors work with clients just to help them understand what the assets mean and what a plan might look like for the future. Whether that's working with a mental health professional, and that could be a counsellor or a therapist or a coach, somebody who can be there to help with putting what you're experiencing into context, to help with giving you tools and skills to move forward, to help with finding ways to support yourself through this process, whether that is tools and skills to help regulate emotion, to help keep you focused, whether that's during the session or after, or even tools to help moving forward as you implement the arrangements that you've put in place in mediation. I would also say emotional support. And by that, I don't necessarily just mean professional therapists, but as I talked about in the very first episode, also finding support groups. That there are, maybe the internet is good for this, but there are lots of people out there who have resources, who are willing to share. And that could be a support group for people who are separating in your area. And just talking with other people, sharing experiences, having people, I think, validate some of the challenges that you're facing can be really helpful. The other thing I would say is they're also often a good source of referrals, that they will have worked with professionals that they've found beneficial and helpful. And that might be some way that you'd be able to find somebody if you're struggling with how to build your professional team. The other thing is obviously family and friends, but I think it's also important to figure out what is possible. That the reality is, as I said last time, they love you, they care about you, they want the best for you, but they may not be the best placed to help in terms of helping you have context, of helping you to regulate and focus. So as we talked about, family and friends often fall into 3 camps: the hawks, who want you to go for the throat, the doves, who just want you to settle for the sake of peace, and the moderates, the ones who can see both sides of a situation. Not everyone has moderates in their tribe, and so it can be challenging to feel that you're using family and friends as emotional support, which is something they want to do for you, but that sometimes I work with clients and they worry that if they settle, if they put in place certain arrangements, they will disappoint somehow their family and friends. And I think that can put a lot of pressure on people. So I would say be careful. Think about, is this someone that's going to support me, but I'm going to then feel worried about what I can do in the agreement? Or is this somebody who will support me and they will respect the fact that I have to make choices for me and for, if you have children, the children? So have a think about it. The last one is what can you do? So we talked a little bit last time about what are some ways you can support yourself through separation and divorce. And I think it's really important that actually I work with some clients who have really, they've read lots of books, they've spoken to professionals, they've got a lot of input. And I think it helps, it definitely helps them to feel better prepared to have some of these conversations. And I also work with clients who don't read outside, who rely on the information that we provide in the mediation. That's also obviously something I would suggest is good to do. But I do feel like the people who have read around, maybe it's helpful because when I say something and talk about maybe some information that's come from research, they're often aware of it. And it just makes it, I think, a little bit easier for them to navigate in the mediation, that they feel a bit more empowered around the decisions that they're making. What I would say is, if you've identified gaps in the team, so you know who the team is, you know who you've decided, actually, I don't need to find these people. So maybe you decide, I don't need a forensic accountant. And as I said, I have yet to have a client in mediation who's worked with a forensic accountant. You might then decide, well, how do I find these people? I would always say word of mouth is a good way, because you need to try meeting a couple of professionals in order to make sure that you feel that you can rely on them, that you feel this is going to be a good person for me to work with, that it's a good fit. Really important in these types of cases, that you feel the professional is a good fit. The other thing I would say is, if you have existing professionals within your team, so maybe you're already working with a lawyer, the chances are they will also have referrals around counsellors or mediators, or if you're working with a counsellor, they may have referrals around lawyers or mediators, and vice versa. These tend to be relatively small professional communities, and a lot of times we will work with everybody in the community, so we all have a sense of how people practice, what their work is like, and so those professionals that you're working with can be a good source of referrals. I would say important to use that, to leverage that referral, but also don't just take it as, well, I've got to work with this person because my lawyer said they were good. Check, yeah, have a call with them, speak to them, see if you feel like, actually, yeah, this would be somebody who I could see helping in this situation. So word of mouth is helpful, referrals are helpful, but always I would say check. Yeah, check out that they are going to be the right person for you. And then lastly, I would say, when you've got all of these team, and I would suggest actually kind of setting out, what does your team look like, writing it down, then just think, how do I get the most out of each of them? How do I maximize the benefit to myself from working with these specific people? So one example might be, if you're working with a counsellor, and part of that might be to help with processing, to work through the grieving process, to deal with, maybe feelings of anger or sadness or loss, whatever it is that you're feeling, they will also have great tips about how to help regulate emotion during the mediation session. So leverage them, use that. Yeah. So the next time you go for your session, obviously talk about what you need to talk about, but also say, look, I'm going to my mediation. Can you give me some ideas about how I can make sure I function at my best, that I'm able to focus on what I need to focus on? So all of these people have a lot of ideas and exposure and experience about the separation and divorce process, and often they will have really great ideas, but they may not share them. So if you're thinking, I wonder if I can leverage some ideas from them, just ask. Yeah, these are people who, if they're professionals that you've hired, are working for you to help you. So make the most of them. And that's kind of building the team. I think it's an iterative process, and it doesn't happen overnight. I know clients who might add pieces of the team slowly as they get closer towards maybe their mediation process, or add people once they're in the mediation process. So it's a very kind of iterative experience. But I would say having a conscious thought about, how am I going to build a team to support me, is really important, because sometimes I find people come and actually they need help from someone else who isn't part of their existing team, and they're maybe not even aware that actually there are people out there who could help with emotional regulation, or just understanding how the finances work, what the tax situation might be. I think all of those things are just helpful to think about as you're doing this. So be conscious, do it consciously, and think about, who's in my team, who do I need, and how do I fill those gaps? So thanks for listening. Take care, and I'll see you next week.